Roscoe Jenkins Jr., better known as Dr. R.J. Stevens, is a successful television show host known for his irreverent guests, party-like atmosphere in the studio, and his philosophy of Team Me. He's sold countless self-help books, preaching the importance of self-reliance as part of his philosophy. Now, he's become more famous after announcing his engagement to the gorgeous Bianca Kittles, winner of the reality show Survivor Kiribati. The producers have created a montage of Roscoe's and Bianca's success to boost their careers, banking on the perfect match between the accomplished doctor and the competitive reality TV star. They also broadcast this during their engagement party, which makes Bianca glow as she receives compliments and congratulations. Meanwhile, Roscoe and Marty, his agent, are very excited to talk about the opportunities brought about by this engagement. When Marty comments about how good he looks, Roscoe says it's thanks to the vegan diet Bianca enforced on him. There may be hunger pangs, but it's worth it. Bianca calls him to tell him his mother called. Roscoe takes it. Mama Jenkins sounds so sweet after hearing her son's voice. She asks if he'll come for the 50th anniversary banquet. Roscoe says he's not sure, as his son Jamal has an important soccer game, but he did send them the 50-inch plasma TV, which is nice. Mama Jenkins says it's a shame if he can't, because all of their family will come, including Clyde and Lucinda. Roscoe is surprised when he hears these names, but a baritone voice interrupts their conversation, and it's Papa Jenkins. Of course, he's been watching his son's TV show, but there's a hint of resentment underlying his voice. Roscoe hasn't visited his family since Jamal was a baby. Papa Jenkins strongly advises his son to not disappoint his mother. With that, the call ends. Roscoe doesn't know how to feel about that call. For many, going home to family is something to look forward to, but unfortunately, not for Roscoe. In the next scene, we see Roscoe cheering up for Jamal and his team. When Jamal scores a goal, Roscoe can't help but feel proud of his son. After the game, the kid asks his father why they can't go to Dry Springs where the Jenkins family lives. He says he misses Papa Jenkins, who told him all of his cousins would be there, and there's going to be lots of fun. Roscoe says he's going to think about it, but Jamal knows that his father needs to ask permission from his boss. Roscoe refutes this, saying that, in a relationship, the man is the boss. But that night, it's shown that Bianca is clearly the dominant one in their relationship. She also has this weird habit of running 7 miles right after the deed. After their sexy time, Roscoe manages to book their flights to Dry Springs. They'll stay there for 4 days, and then they'll return to their normal lives. Bianca supports this decision, but with different intentions. She intends to get a television crew to tape the whole event to show how close Roscoe is to his family. Then, once this is broadcast, their TV show ratings will go through the roof. Roscoe likes this idea. Country boy done good, returns home with his survivor queen, is something his audience will love. Bianca loves this as well. She tells Roscoe that no man has ever connected with her the way he did. She considers herself a prize for Roscoe, who always wins, and that's why they are good for each other. Soon, Jamal, Roscoe, and Bianca, along with her small dog Fifi, are strutting their way inside the airport. They look fashionable, especially Roscoe in his all-white suit. Once inside the plane, Roscoe complains about how Bianca has so much luggage that there's no room for his own inside the compartment. Bianca waves him off, saying she needs a lot of clothes to impress his parents. A stewardess offers Roscoe a solution: a space inside the captain's closet. He takes it, then goes to his seat. He asks for a cocktail, but Bianca says she's already asked them to prepare him beet juice. He looks resigned as he takes his glass. Jamal talks to him, saying he's excited for the weekend, and Roscoe replies, "Anything for him." A slurping sound makes him turn, and he discovers Fifi is drinking from his glass. The bloody red juice spills over his outfit. To make things worse, once they have landed, they find out his luggage has gone missing. He has no choice but to wear tasteless, multicolored pants, which Bianca chose for him. On their way, Jamal looks at the official invitation from the Jenkins family. He's amazed at how jam-packed the event is. There's a barbecue party when they arrive, a softball game the next day, a fish fry party on Saturday, and then on Sunday, there will be an obstacle course in the morning, and the anniversary banquet in the evening. Jamal also sees his father's childhood photo, and he gleefully remarks about Roscoe's ears. The three of them enjoy their ride, not noticing the trunk of their car shooting sparks as it grinds the road due to Bianca's luggage. They decide to stop at a pharmacy in town. Bianca remarks on how quaint the place looks, but just then, an SUV screeches past them as if it's the only way available. Driving it is Reggie, and with him is his girlfriend Amy. Reggie recognizes Roscoe and immediately gets out of the car to greet them. Roscoe warns Bianca to keep her valuables safe because, in his words, Reggie can con even Jesus. Reggie is happy to see his cousin again. Throughout the conversation, Reggie keeps calling him Roscoe, which makes Bianca confused. Apparently, she only knows his name as R.J. Stevens, and nothing about his real name, or about his family. To change the conversation, Reggie asks Roscoe for $300 to buy some ice. Roscoe knows his cousin's modus, but Bianca tries to be nice by goading him into giving Reggie the money. Afterwards, the three finally arrive at the Jenkins estate. Everybody seems busy as they prepare for the barbecue. The first people to see them are Papa and Mama Jenkins. Mama Jenkins warmly welcomes them, noting how beautiful Bianca is, and how thin Roscoe seems to have become. Papa Jenkins teases Roscoe about being known as R.J. Stevens, and says he knows it's only a stage name. Walking towards them is a huge man named Otis, and his wife Ruthie. Otis is Roscoe's older brother, the town sheriff who's proud of his family and his recipe for deep-fried fish. He suddenly playfully grabs Roscoe by the neck, saying this is like the old time, but mostly, it looks like Roscoe is holding on to his dear life. Once let go, he introduces Bianca and Jamal to them. From the onset, Jamal is welcomed by his rather robust but athletic cousins, while Bianca comes off as a bit condescending despite trying to be nice, especially when it comes to her physique. Papa Jenkins takes his grandson to play baseball, and Mama Jenkins invites Bianca to freshen up, telling her that Roscoe will take care of their luggage. After changing into a new set of clothes, Bianca enters the kitchen, still carrying her dog. There, she sees the women of the Jenkins family busy with the preparation. There's Mama Jenkins and Ruthie, but the most notable is Betty. She's Roscoe's younger sister, a confident woman with an uncontrollable mouth. She approaches Bianca, saying how proud she is to have her as her future sister-in-law. To show her goodwill, she offers Bianca a glass of her famous iced tea. However, Bianca spits it out and calls it liquid diabetes. Her haughty and condescending attitude shows, and it's not something the Jenkins women approve of. Meanwhile, Roscoe has changed into more comfortable clothes in his old room. He looks at the trophies displayed, frowning as none of them have his name. When he sees a small trophy in the corner, he finally smiles. It's the trophy he won from the family's 1985 obstacle course, and the only time he bested his nemesis, Clyde. Interrupting his recollections is the family dog Bucky, who's still alive and kicking after all these years. Roscoe decides to come down to the living room. There, he sees his 50-inch plasma TV gift still in its box, untouched. Papa Jenkins sees him. When asked about the television, Papa Jenkins says he doesn't need a new one when the old set is still working fine. Also, Clyde has given him season tickets to football, allowing him to see the game live, rather than from behind a high-definition screen. He points to Clyde's picture on the wall and says he's a successful car dealer who's already managing his third dealership. Roscoe can't help but feel disappointed and jealous at how his father says that Clyde is special. This is the main reason why he never felt comfortable going home, because he never felt special in his father's eyes. He decides to join Otis and Reggie at the barbecue to inquire about Clyde and Lucinda. They both confirm that they'll be coming together. Lucinda used to be engaged, but the engagement unfortunately failed. Now, there are whispers that Clyde is pining for her again. Roscoe just can't accept this. Otis and Reggie see his agitation and think he's just joking. To keep his mind off Lucinda, they both offer him one of the sumptuous ribs. It's been a long time since Roscoe tasted proper baby back ribs. He reminds himself that he's following Bianca's diet, but it's taking all of his energy not to grab that meat and eat it. While the boys are tempting Roscoe, Bianca joins the women again at the table set outside. They all inquire about her strategies and tricks for winning the Survivor show. She proudly tells them and ends her tales with her belief in winning at all costs. Instead of being impressed, Mama Jenkins feels off about her competitiveness. Bianca adds that this is the reason why she and Roscoe are a match made in heaven, because they are both winners. At this, Betty laughs heartily at her. Roscoe? Winning? She says those two words don't even go in one sentence. Only Clyde gets that distinction. And then, despite Mama Jenkins' warning, Betty proceeds to relay the well-known rivalry between Roscoe and Clyde. When he was young, Clyde's parents passed away due to a car accident. Papa Jenkins took him in and treated him like his own son. He was smart, friendly, and kept winning at whatever he did. And, for some reason, he and Roscoe were always pitted against each other. Whether in ball or board games, Clyde was always winning, and he would gloat in front of his cousin. But Roscoe got his time to shine during the family's obstacle course in 1985. That time, the kids put in a wager. Whoever wins will get to invite Lucinda Allen to the spring formal dance. Lucinda was the muse in their neighborhood, and Roscoe had a big crush on her. So, Roscoe and Clyde put their best foot forward to win the race. In the end, Roscoe did it. When it was time to ask Lucinda, he was devastated to find out she'd said yes to Clyde. Nobody knew about the bet, not even Lucinda, so Clyde simply took this opportunity. But Betty came to find out the whole story because she eavesdropped on what happened next. After the dance, Roscoe told his father about the unfairness he experienced. Unfortunately, it backfired. Papa Jenkins lectured him about Lucinda being a proper lady and not a trophy he could win. Roscoe also received some whips on his backside. When Roscoe asked about Clyde, Papa Jenkins said his cousin would be dealt with. But Clyde was a smooth talker, even until now, and maybe that's why he thrives in car dealerships. He told Papa Jenkins he allowed Roscoe to win because it meant a lot to him, while going out with Lucinda meant a lot to himself. He even admitted his actions were wrong and offered his backside for the whipping. Papa Jenkins let him go with a, "Don't ever do this again." Roscoe cried that night. In his mind, he'd never catch up to Clyde and would never earn his father's love. In Papa Jenkins' eyes, he'd always be the loser to Clyde. After hearing Betty's tale, Bianca is indignant about her fiancé being a loser before they meet. But she composes herself and says, "Surely, Roscoe must have gotten over his childhood love," while showing them her ring. Betty retorts at her, asking her where she thinks Roscoe's philosophy of Team Me comes from. That's when Bianca realizes Betty is hinting at something. Because of his resentment and unresolved hurt, he developed a strong sense of self-reliance, at the expense of cutting his family out of his life. After all, his family has thought of him as a loser. Why even rely on them? Bianca walks over to Roscoe, who turns around on her with barbecue sauce all over his mouth. Before she can confront him, a shiny black car drives into the garden. And guess who comes out of it? Clyde, wearing his Tiger Woods vest. Following him is Lucinda, simple but with striking beauty. They get everyone to gather around them as Lucinda opens the car trunk to reveal boxes of Mama Jenkins' favorite red velvet cake. Roscoe begrudgingly walks toward them, with Bianca just behind. Roscoe and Clyde greet each other like rivals seeing each other after a long time. Then Roscoe hugs Lucinda, more warmly than warranted. Before he forgets, Roscoe introduces Bianca as his fiancée. Lucinda gives them heartfelt congratulations, but Clyde is quick on his feet to give Bianca the sweet looks. Roscoe pulls Bianca closer as if to warn Clyde. In return, Clyde puts his arm around Lucinda, as if saying, "Look who I've got beside me." It looks like the old rivalry has been revived. Later, the barbecue party starts. All is well until Bianca remarks about the concept of first love to Lucinda. Clyde chimes in and says no man forgets his first love, especially when it's Lucinda. He jokingly announces that he plans to tie the knot with her, all the while giving Roscoe meaningful looks. Lucinda corrects his notions and says she came here with Clyde as a friend. She looks visibly awkward with Clyde's open affection for her. Bianca, not wanting her or Roscoe to be upstaged, announces to everyone that they've hired a professional camera crew to document the anniversary banquet. Everyone seems excited at first, but when Reggie makes fun of Roscoe's show, they don't seem to be as excited. Papa Jenkins sternly reminds his son that this is a family gathering and not a Hollywood production. To Roscoe's surprise, Clyde comes to his defense, saying it's going to be all right. Roscoe has a good career, a beautiful fiancée, and a good son. Never mind the countless times he lost to Clyde. In retaliation, Roscoe calls out Clyde's pretentiousness. He says Clyde's a prisoner of his competitive edge, and he still hasn't gotten over the one loss he suffered. He also warns him that he's going to beat him again. Clyde makes a wager, but Roscoe refuses. He knows Clyde's going to renege on it again, just like he did back in 1985. He calls Clyde a loser and accuses him of stealing what was his. At this point, the whole table becomes quiet. Bianca gets a hint of what he's talking about, but Lucinda looks clueless. That night, Roscoe soothes Bianca's ruffled feathers, as she accuses him of still not being over his crush. But he assures her that he's completely over it, especially when he has her as his lady. Later, Roscoe goes down to the living room and curses Clyde's portrait. Lucinda walks in on him and invites him to have some cake. In the kitchen, they catch up on each other's lives, and it's a light-hearted conversation. Roscoe listens as Lucinda clarifies that she and Clyde are not together. She also tells him her story about her failed engagement, saying her ex didn't want to have a family. Roscoe feels for her, and shares that Jamal's biological mother does not want to have a family either. But he's Jamal's father, so he had to step up. Interrupting their conversation is Reggie, who is doing some weird shenanigans with his girlfriend. And with that, Roscoe and Lucinda retire for the night. The next day, the whole family gathers to have their annual softball tournament. The Jenkins family is very competitive, and it rubs off on everyone. Since softball is not Jamal's sport, he keeps missing the ball. Bianca gets frustrated and calls the kid. Lucinda overhears her and decides that what she said is unacceptable. She signals to Otis's daughter to pass her the ball. Although Bianca's reflexes are good at touching the base, at least Lucinda manages to make her dirty. She gives the survivor winner a smirk before going back to the game. But perhaps no one is more competitive than Roscoe and Clyde when they get pitched against each other. Roscoe happens to be the batter for his team, and Clyde is pitching for the opponent. At first, Roscoe misses the ball, and the crowd led by Clyde mocks him. But Mama Jenkins stands up to encourage him, and Bianca tells him to focus. This gives Roscoe enough courage to try again. On his third bat, he manages to hit the ball, which in turn hits Mama J on her forehead. Roscoe, Otis, and Papa Jenkins bring her to the clinic. The ball has given her a red lump on her forehead, but thankfully, it's nothing serious. Roscoe apologizes profusely, but Mama Jenkins doesn't fault him for what happened. He and Otis remain in town to get the ingredients for their next party. While carrying a large bucket of fish, Roscoe remembers how his big brother used to be one of the best linebackers in their town. If not for his knee injury, he would have been signed up for the NFL and living a good life. Otis says he doesn't regret the life he didn't have because he's content with what he has. He has a great family and lives in a community he loves and loves back. And what does Roscoe have? He has his money and a TV show, but that's it. As for Jamal, Otis wonders why Roscoe didn't teach him softball when he's good at it. Roscoe says he doesn't have time and mocks Otis for his parental advice. Otis says he's only saying that Roscoe shouldn't let money raise his kids. Roscoe takes offense. He calls out Otis's children who look bigger than their peers. Perhaps Otis should be more vigilant about what his kids eat before noticing other people's kids. At this point, Roscoe has crossed a line. You don't look down on other people's kids when you can't even care for your own. You also don't flash your money to others when that's all you ever have. Otis teaches these valuable lessons to his younger brother using his left hook. Roscoe has no choice but to walk back home, the lump on his forehead throbbing under the sun. On his way, he meets Betty. He sighs as he's not in the mood to take another round of mockery, especially from his tactless sister. So, when she laughs horribly at his injury and scorns his show, he hits her where it hurts the most. He says he should make a segment about women who mask conjugal visits as Bible readings and call it Bible thumpers. This immediately shuts Betty up, but she's not a Jenkins if she can't defend herself. She gets out of her car and gives Roscoe his second beating for the day. Quite frankly, he has it coming. He limps back to the house. Lucinda happens to be relaxing on the front porch when she sees Roscoe. Immediately, she tends to his injuries. She gently reprimands him for teasing others and pretending it doesn't hurt. From experience, she knows his siblings have done this. The old Roscoe would have owned up to his mistakes. Roscoe says Roscoe 7.0 is a much better version. But to Lucinda, Roscoe 1.0 was just fine. They share a short moment in which Roscoe basks in her gentle care. No matter how much he denies it, he's still pining for Lucinda Allen. Interrupting their moment are Clyde and Papa Jenkins. Clyde doesn't like what he sees, not because he's jealous, but because he thinks he's getting one-upped. It doesn't help when Papa J asks his son to help him instead of Clyde. Roscoe takes this as another win, and this makes Papa Jenkins curious. Inside his workshop, the father asks his son about the wedding. Roscoe explains that Bianca likes a grand wedding and tries to impress his father with some exclusive and expensive details. But Papa Jenkins cuts right to the issue, if Roscoe really is happy about it. He has noticed his closeness to Lucinda, and he's also worried about Jamal. Apparently, the kid has told him that he doesn't see his father that much. Roscoe stutters a bit when he says marrying Bianca is what he wants. It sounds more like he's convincing himself than expressing his true feelings. As for Jamal, he explains that his TV show takes a lot of his time. At this, Papa Jenkins cuts him. He's not exactly against his son's career, but he doesn't understand Roscoe's Team Me philosophy. Roscoe explains it's a saying about protecting oneself and being their own person. That's all fine and good, the father says, but there are times when a man has to depend on others, especially on family and friends. Roscoe never learned it in this house, and it's certainly something not usually taught to a child. In a sad voice, Roscoe says that some kids learn it all on their own. If only Papa Jenkins really listened, he would have heard the pain in his voice. Bianca wakes Roscoe up early in the morning the next day. She wants him to walk her dog, Fifi. If he does, then she's going to give him a sexy gift that night. Roscoe immediately gets up and does his task. Along the trail, he lets the dog do its business in the bushes when he suddenly sees a snake. He runs away, leaving the dog behind. He runs into Lucinda, who's taking her morning jog. He tells her about the situation. Lucinda is even braver than him, walking straight into where the snake is and retrieving Fifi. Then she invites him to walk with her. They stop by the lake, and there, Roscoe lets out his grudge about his family, how everyone did better than him, and how they treated him as a loser. He's completely forgotten about the dog. Roscoe also adds that when he tried speaking about his experiences in front of an audience, he finally felt seen. He realized this is what he's good at, and he capitalized on it. He claims the audience felt him more than his family. To this, Lucinda tells him that it's only natural for families to mess with each other. That's how they form their bond. She also praises him for standing up for himself, especially against Clyde, although she doesn't understand why they have to compete with each other. Roscoe scoffs and says someone needs to knock Clyde off his high horse at times. He's always used underhanded tactics just to win. Lucinda also asks about the "you stole what was mine" thing during the picnic. What did Clyde steal from him? Roscoe answers a great opportunity. He can't tell her the details. She says, if a great opportunity was stolen, then maybe he could create a new one. He looks meaningfully at her. If only she knew what those words meant. Walking in on them are Reggie and Amy, thus ending their conversation. That's when Roscoe realizes Fifi is gone. Amy says they saw the little dog with the family dog Bucky. Roscoe gets terrified, as he knows how Bucky can be wild. They all run to where the canines are. But to their surprise and disgust, the two are sharing a rather animalistic, sexy time, with Fifi being the dominant one. It certainly is an image that will be stuck in their minds for a long time. Later that afternoon, Clyde plays a video game with Jamal while the other cousins watch. They're all having a great time when Roscoe sees them. Clyde invites him to join, but he refuses. That's when he taunts Roscoe, saying he always wins in a game of dice. And as expected, Roscoe takes the bait. The first rounds of their game are quite tame, and the kids are enjoying the competitiveness of their uncles. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the women are having their own soiree, while Otis prepares his famous fried fish. Bianca joins them, carrying Fifi with her, and it's surprising that she finally enjoys Betty's diabetes-flavored iced tea. The dice game becomes more intense, and it's going in Roscoe's favor. However, it only takes the smallest of threats to set them off. In the next minute, we see them rolling on the floor, pummeling each other. The kids have run off to the kitchen, where the women still have no idea of the rumble going on in the living room. Then, Roscoe and Clyde take their fight into the kitchen, smashing Otis's freshly fried fish and sending flour and batter flying onto everyone. They only stop when Papa Jenkins stares them down. That night, Bianca is so disappointed she orders her fiancé to sleep on the couch. The next day, the main event is happening at last. The obstacle course has always been the highlight of the Jenkins tradition. Just before the start, Bianca gives Jamal a rather aggressive pep talk. Clyde can't help but chime in, emphasizing that kids should be having fun instead of competing with each other. Roscoe comes to his son's rescue, and this turns into a full-blown exchange of harsh words. Bianca keeps fueling Roscoe's aggressiveness, while Lucinda tries to de-escalate things. Again, they only stop when Papa Jenkins calls them out. They've been at this for 20 years. It's time to stop. He tells them to go to their places at the starting line. When everyone's ready, Otis fires the gun, signaling the start of the race. As mentioned earlier, the Jenkins family is competitive. Despite tripping and tumbling, participants keep running and completing each obstacle. But no one takes this as seriously as Roscoe and Clyde. They're willing to push others away as long as they get ahead. Throughout the course, it becomes apparent that Roscoe is more fit, completing the obstacles with more ease compared to Clyde, who huffs and puffs heavily. But there comes a turning point when everything changes. At the climbing wall, Jamal asks for his father's help. Roscoe has gained a significant lead, which he'll lose if he helps Jamal, but he climbs down and tries to lift him. Clyde catches up to him, and he hears Bianca shouting to leave his son. Against his better judgment, Roscoe lets Jamal fall, telling him not to give up. He can't let Clyde win this race. Mama and Papa Jenkins are appalled at what they've seen. Soon, Roscoe takes the lead again, and after a few minutes, he finally reaches the finish line. He wins, but at what cost? Only Bianca celebrates for him. He gloats at Clyde for winning again. He shouts at how he won, all on his own. He calls his son to come to him, but Jamal walks away. Papa Jenkins reprimands his son for acting this way. Roscoe defends himself, saying a challenge was issued, so he only stepped up to win. The father reminds him to not use that tone on him and to show respect. Roscoe still demands the credit that's due to him, but Papa Jenkins refuses. Winning a child's race, buying a fancy television, and even that show of his don't deserve any credit. That's when Roscoe lets out all the years of resentment towards his father. In a defeated voice, he says Clyde gets off easy again. He knows even then that his cousin lost his father, but why does it mean he has to lose his own too? All Roscoe wanted was to be acknowledged by his father. Papa Jenkins turns to him, and he finally realizes why his son stayed away for 9 years. But, like the proud man that he is, he just walks away. Clyde looks genuinely surprised by Roscoe's outburst. He explains that he never intended to take his place, that he only wanted to fit in. He offers his hand as a gesture of peace. He looks truly sorry. As Roscoe takes his hand, Bianca swipes it off, accusing Clyde of using kindness to manipulate others. Roscoe knows he's messed up big time, so he decides they should go. That afternoon, Roscoe, Bianca, and Jamal pack their bags. Only Mama Jenkins is there to see them go. It hurts her to see them go, but she understands. Her only request is to not let years pass by before they visit again, and with that, the trio goes on their way. Bianca tries to comfort her fiancé, saying they'll do better next time. They can hire actors and still do the intended broadcast. Roscoe's actual family is not a perfect fit for their dream team. Roscoe is flustered by this idea. When he partially agrees, Jamal protests. He's a Jenkins, and there's no way he'll abandon his family. This is the wake-up call Roscoe needs. He tricks Bianca into saying what she really wants. She admits she doesn't like his unruly family, and that she's considering not inviting them to the wedding. Roscoe finally realizes Bianca is not worth losing something important in his life. And so, when they arrive at the airport, he breaks off the engagement and calls her the B word. Bianca mocks him, saying he'll lose his career if he doesn't marry her. In response, Roscoe releases her heavy luggage on the road as he and Jamal drive away. Even Fifi won't come with her, as the dog has formed a bond with Bucky. At the anniversary banquet, Mama Jenkins looks sad. She wishes Roscoe was here. Papa Jenkins says their son has made his choice, to which she replies he hasn't given him one. For a boy who didn't feel the support of his family, he's doing quite well. Isn't that something he, as his father, is supposed to be proud of? To their surprise, Roscoe interrupts Clyde's speech. He goes on to say how his family laughed at him for every loss he suffered. So he went away to seek his winning opportunities. But he finally recognizes that no matter how much he's being laughed at, his family serves as his reality check. They're rough on a brother, it's true. But without them, he would have gone astray with his success. He thanks his family for making him a better man, and for molding him to withstand anything the world throws at him. There's nothing, not even the survivor chick, worth replacing in a family as good as them. Then, he greets his parents with a happy anniversary. Roscoe receives a standing ovation. Everyone sees why he's become a successful TV host. Papa Jenkins approaches him and apologizes for all the years he drove him away. The words he has said are the best gifts he has ever received. He calls him R.J. Stevens, but Roscoe corrects him. He's a Jenkins, and his full name is Roscoe Stephen Jenkins, like his dad. They hug each other, and everyone claps for them. Then, Roscoe looks at Lucinda. He remembers her words. If he didn't get the great opportunity at first, then he can create another one. And that's what Roscoe does. After 20 years, he finally claims his prize. He asks Lucinda for a dance, and she obliges. The movie ends with the Jenkins family watching the recorded banquet, while Roscoe and Lucinda spend the night together. In the credits, we see that Roscoe has changed his show's name to his real name, and has invited his family for a special interview.